I believe our future depends powerfully on how well we understand this cosmos, in which we float like a mote of dust in the morning sky.
In my last episode of The Trip for Life, I said about exploring Maine in order to determine why exactly they are so happy, despite the weather, the relative isolation, and the bum economy. This time I'll explore Mount Desert Island, Kent, and Kennebunkport to see how the people of Maine can overcome these factors to be one of the happiest places in the United States. Of course, the fact that the place is so amazingly beautiful probably has a lot to do with that. At any rate, the fact that they are getting outside probably does get them the sunshine that they need to at least get a little bit of that serotonin burst. When your eyes see sunlight, like we're finally having today, it activates a part of your brain called the raphe nucleus, which releases serotonin through the serotonin system, which is extremely complicated and not fully understood. At any rate, it activates over 500,000 different neurons in the brain and really produces an entirely different physiological circumstance compared to being in the dark. And you know what? It was advantageous to our ancestors for us to have this sort of system. Because in the winter, you don't want to be really active and up and at 'em because you're going to burn a lot of calories. You may not have a lot of calories around to eat. Whereas in the summer, when food is plentiful, you want to be a little bit more active, not only so that you can get out and collect food for the winter, but also so you can avoid predators that are also more active during that time period. Besides, if you have a good jacket and a nice hat, you can get out in almost any weather. Here I am on top of Cadillac Mountain in 50-mile-per-hour winds with no visibility, giving what would have been a very engaging speech if you could have heard any of it. I kind of had to delete the audio because it was nothing but wind noise. After all, there is one thing that you can count on Maine giving you. The weather in Maine might be a challenge, but at least you can count on it changing fairly rapidly. I couldn't really find anybody to interview in Bar Harbor, since everyone was either out of town or fabulously wealthy and ensconced in their giant houses. I decided to try some of the other towns on Mount Desert Island. In Southwest Harbor, in a lovely little cafe, I found what I was looking for.
You talked about Ohio?
Yeah.
You ever been to Cincinnati in August?
Yes.
That's a good reason to live in Maine.
Yeah, it's like being in a sauna, except for stinkier.
Exactly. And I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina too, which is no better. Mm-hmm. So Maine's nice.
So you like the mild summers, in other words?
What?
You like the mild summers?
I like the mild summers. I like the mild winters. Our winters are moderated by the ocean as our summers are.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
So when it's 20 degrees colder in Bangor in the winter, it's because of the ocean down here. When it's 20 degrees hotter in the summer, it's because of the ocean.
That's always one of the nice things about being on the ocean. I
So
grew up on an island, actually, in
Oh,
Florida.
did you? Okay, you know how the
I know
ocean
how
can
it is.
moderate.
I know the island attitude, too, is really nice. The people of Maine, like the sea ducks that surround Mount Desert Island, seem to know how to ride the waves and go with the flow. Like my next interviewee, who's persevered through illness and tough times, and seems to have come out all right. What is it that makes you happy to live in Maine, despite the weather?
Well, Maine's a really liberal state, and I revel in that.
I've noticed that there's a lot of diversity of opinion here, and people don't really seem to mind it. There isn't the rancor that there is in, say, Ohio. I mean, in Ohio, people won't express their opinions, but here, everybody's always expressing their opinions.
Well, here, if you notice that track on there, yeah, I'm quite vocal about my opinion.
So you think that it's mostly about just the way that people are easygoing and...
Well, yeah, you know, the winters are so rough here that by the time spring rolls around, everybody's ready to have it be spring, you know. This place in particular is the end of the rainbow. I hope nobody figures that out.
The sky calls to us. If we do not destroy ourselves, we will one day venture to the stars.
After spending several days camping and hiking my way through Acadia National Park, I moved on to the York and Kent area of Maine, home of the Stonewall Kitchen, purveyors of delicious jams and other desserts, and the Bagel Basket, which probably has the yummiest bagels that I've ever had, and I've had some good ones in my time. They've been providing delicious meals to the area since about 1994, but the house that they're located in is actually one of the oldest structures in the area, and as a result, it has a great interior ambience. And beyond that, the people are very friendly, and we're quite willing to talk about what they like about Maine. So, what makes you happy to live in Maine?
What makes me happy is Maine, there's a lot of things to do. You have like cities like Portland, but then you have the coast like York, and you can go to the beach. But then there's lots of different activities to do, like hiking and fishing, and it's very outdoorsy, and I like that part about it. And I like the fact that Maine is part of like New England, but it's close to Boston and Massachusetts, or at least in York. So you can go down and like to the big city, or you can have the country life. It's like the best.
Just that there's no crime. It's peace and quiet, and you can walk around at night without being afraid of anything. That's what I did last night. I went out at like 9:30 and walked the beach, and I was just enjoying it. It was so nice. Peace and quiet, that's what's important for me.
Yeah, I think people are really friendly. Even though it's kind of like in the wild, especially up Maine. I haven't been there, but you know, not many people, not too many people around to make it crowded like in the city. So, you know,
Yeah.
and I love a state that has 4 seasons. I hate summer only.
Yeah.
It's too hot. And yes, I don't ski or snowboard or anything like that, but I still like snow. I like my Christmas to have snow. So, you know, I mean, it's nice and quiet. You can raise your kids, and if they want, they can go down to Boston and go to school or have fun or go somewhere. I mean, sometimes it's boring for 15, 16 to 20 something people. It's boring, but in general, it's good. It's okay. I've been to Florida. I lived in Massachusetts too, but it's my favorite.
Well, the weather, seriously. Yeah.
The weather makes you happy. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
I like the 4 seasons, and I enjoy actually rainy day. Not every day, but you know, it's not every day in Maine,
Indeed.
except a couple of years ago maybe.
Well, the weather has been a bit weird all over the place.
Yes, definitely. But I love Maine. You know, we come from Europe, and I found here the same environment I used to live in.
So where do you live in Europe?
Eastern Europe, Bulgaria.
Bulgaria.
Yeah.
We all from there.
So we all from there, yeah. I tried in Florida and didn't work for me. Too flat, too hot, too humid.
Alligators.
I don't care, I like them actually, they're tasty.
They do taste good, but there's nothing around here that'll jump out of a stream and eat you.
Yes, but with me, it's probably the weather is the biggest factor to be in Maine.
What trip through Maine would be complete without at least a stop in Kennebunkport? Kennebunkport was originally just the port for the town of Kennebunk, but over time it's come to have a greater importance than its mother city, due to its great natural beauty and its pleasing environment. As a result, over time, and there has been a lot of time to do this in, since many of the structures date to the late 1700s, it has attracted a fairly rich population. It might not be a good place to live if you don't have a good stack of dough, but it's a nice place to visit regardless, because the people are pretty friendly, and as I said, it's very pretty. I found a couple here in Kennebunkport that were willing to talk about their experiences in Maine. Let's hear what they have to say. What makes you happy to be living here in Maine?
The people here are much friendlier than they are in other states. I don't know if that's because of the removal from urban atmosphere or because there's something of a barrier from other states and it's all the trees or something. But people are much friendlier here than they are anywhere else. So what goes around comes around.
Excellent. It's the moose. People are afraid of hitting the moose.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. It's kind of familiarity. Like, I've lived here all my life, and it's having a beach and having people kind of, it's like everyone kind of knows each other, at least in this town. I mean, I don't know everyone in the state, but it's just a really good sense of camaraderie, and just it sounds so cheesy, but it's kind of like we're all in it together. Like we're all in the same boat. No pun intended. I don't know. I love coming back here. I lived in the city for a few years, and it's definitely like, yeah, people are ruder, always more in a rush, and everything here is very kind of laid back. It's really nice to come home to that.
It's probably easy being in tune with your natural environment when you're in such a beautiful place as Maine. And perhaps it was no surprise that as I traveled around, I saw a lot of places that had solar collectors and solar water heaters installed on their homes and businesses. At any rate, as I traveled, I found myself in the city of Biddeford, Maine, and I stopped there first to take pictures of this beautiful church, but then to find some coffee. And it turns out I found something rather interesting while I was traveling through the city, a place called the North Dam Mill. I'll be talking about that more in an upcoming episode, but for now, let's see what some of the residents of the North Dam Mill have to say about living in Maine. So how long have you been living in Maine?
I've been here since 2003, so just about 8 years almost.
What makes you happy to live here in Maine?
There's less people, which, you know, I don't hate people, but it's just it's a little bit more laid back. You can actually tell the difference of people who come, you know, say from Massachusetts. You can just immediately tell they're a little different. They're just a little more high-strung, and people, it's kind of like the Jamaica of the East Coast in a way, if you want to put it that way, or maybe the Jamaica of the Northeast. But it's just a little more laid back, just a little bit slower than what you might have otherwise, and it's just really nice living on the coast.
Do you feel like it's a good place to raise children?
Yeah, that's pretty much why I wanted to be here. I have a big surfing habit, but I didn't want to raise Simon here around typical surf culture, and surf culture in Maine is very anti-typical as far as surf culture goes. So.
What is it that makes you happy to live here in Maine?
A tough question, but we were talking about it before. We talked about the air.
Yeah.
We talked about the water. We talked about the beauty. Mm-hmm. I'm passionate about the architecture and the buildings that we currently work on. And Maine is a very special place, but all of it was built by the people, and that's really what Maine, the happiness kind of perpetuates itself. That's the nice thing, and the culture and the arts that are coming here. It's an interesting place, like no other.
So how do you think people in Maine cope with the weather and cope with perhaps being isolated for periods of time?
Isolated from what?
Oh, you know, from the rest of the world. Like, you know, you can't drive and get long distances when there's lots of snow and stuff like that, especially northern Maine.
Really? Well, I guess I've never felt isolated here at all.
Yeah?
Quite the opposite. I feel like we're in the center of all of those things. So, and the weather is great weather. Portland to Boston corridor is connected to the world so well. So, isolation is really not what we consider up here.
What is it that you love about living in Maine? What makes you happy to live here?
I like the way the seasons change all the time in Maine. I like going into the next season. I like the people of Maine. I like living on the coast.
Join me next time as I explore Scarborough and Portland, Maine in the concluding episode of The Pursuit of Happiness and the Trip for Life.
The sky calls to us. If we do not destroy ourselves, we will one day venture to the stars.